This is Major. I'm on site. I'm going in.
From Doctor Strange to Ghost in the Shell, 2016 has known its fair shares of controversies regarding whitewashing practices. Since the apparition of Twitter and other media such as AG+, the mobilization of netizens and new medias fighting the issue is growing strong. However, the big cinema studios still seem to keep giving minority roles to white actors. In this video, we will try to explain the reasons behind the persistence of the whitewashing practices in Hollywood, more than cultural reasons that are just a facade for trying to justify the erasing of ethnicity, race, and representation in American cinema. Whitewashing is always reasoned by economic incentives driven by white supremacist thought. When The Last Airbender released in 2009, the movie bombed with awful results at the international box office. One can argue that the bad reviews participated in the failure of the movie, but the production was also dragged because of a whitewashing controversy. The Last Airbender is an adaptation of the Nickelodeon cartoon Avatar: The Last Airbender, which followed the story of Aang. The main character was accompanied by Katara and Sokka in the quest of the four elements to become the one who would master them all, the Avatar. The universe of the film is very inspired by Asian culture, from its artistic direction to the strong presence of martial arts. Even if the characters were not explicitly racialized, it was obvious that they were not originally white. However, the casting of the cinematographic adaptation decided otherwise. White American actors were casted for the roles of Aang, Katara and Sokka, which unleashed the wrath of the few spectators who watched the movie. Conscious of the controversy, the director reacted to the accusation of racism and whitewashing by cultural and racial blind arguments. In an interview for IO9, he states, "I don't care who walked through my door, whoever is best for the parts. I'm going to figure it out like a chess game." He adds, "And I had a board of all the people that I was considering the 7 or 8. There was at one time a Chinese Sokka and Katara, and they were over here. One of them was a better actor than the other, and so I was gathering my pros and cons." That is just another way to say, I don't see race, only talent. The problem, however, is that Hollywood has a tendency to underrepresent minority actors, especially Asian actors.
Is that a problem?
No, sir. I've just never sat in the chair before.
You're gonna do great.
Amanda S., in her article entitled Asian American Actors Are Fighting for Visibility, she writes that, I quote, "It's never been easy for an Asian American actor to get work in Hollywood, let alone take a stand against the people who run the place. But according to her, Asian Americans are finally taking a stand." B.D. Wong, a successful Asian American actor who played in huge successes such as Jurassic World, says, I quote, "There is an age-old stereotypical notion that Asian American people don't speak up, but we're really getting people's face about it." The whitewashed roles are portrayed by bankable actors. Scarlett Johansson stars in Ghost in the Shell as Major Kusanagi, and she's the highest grossing movie actress of all time. Tilda Swinton comes the role of the Ancient One in Doctor Strange, an originally Tibetan male monk, and her performances are always critically acclaimed by the critics and the audience.
What's in that tea? Psilocybin? LSD?
It's just tea. With a little honey.
Hollywood movie studios seem to only whitewash their roles to place white actors that they think bankable. This thought can also be found in other movies such as Prince of Persia, starring Jake Gyllenhaal in the role of a Persian prince. But the biggest whitewashing controversy in 2014 was given to us by Ridley Scott's Exodus, Gods and Kings. Telling the story of the exodus of the Egyptian people depicted in the Bible, the movie depicted the rich Egyptians as ethnically white and the slaves as brown, whereas the majority of studies proved that the Egyptian people was, to the least, brown. Through a boycotting campaign that started on Twitter, social media users launched the hashtag #BoycottExodus in order to lower its revenues at the box office. Ridley Scott defended himself in a quite different manner than M. Night Shyamalan. While the latter used cultural arguments to defend its whitewashing, Scott was more upfront and honest. Whitewashing is done for economic reasons. Hollywood simply think that white actors are more bankable than minority actors. As blockbusters are big-budget investments which can cost up to $300 million, Hollywood studios feel like they have to secure every little detail of their production in order to make profits. Ridley Scott boldly states in an interview for Variety, I quote, I cannot mount a film of this budget, where I have to rely on tax rebate in Spain and say that my lead actor is Mohammed and so from such and such. I'm just not going to get it financed. So the question doesn't even come up. So basically the Gladiator director would not take an ethnically accurate actor for the role of Moses, Cleopatra and other Egyptian figures of the era because an Arabic name is not appealing to the financiers and producers and by equivalence to the public. Ridley Scott's declaration can obviously shock, but it is not really surprising. This just highlights the mindset of the institutions of Hollywood, from bottom to top, from directors to sponsors. For them, a minority does not bring as much money as a white actor.
We're not savages.
In an interview with IndieWire, Andrew Han, an Asian American director and screenwriter, tells the story of how a producer wanted him to cast a white actor because it would add more name value to Spanite, his last film about a Korean American family. The actor also highlights that the same line of thought can be found in the independent industry, from which he is a part of. Therefore, if Hollywood studios maintain their whitewashing practices in order to make more profit, it must mean that they actually think that bankable actors are actually going to make the film a hit. However, recent box office reports find that whitewash film performed pretty poorly in theaters. Exodus barely recouped its budget of $140 million, with an underperformance in North America of only $65 million. The bad reviews and the boycotting campaign certainly participated to this underperformance, but then it questioned the veracity and the usefulness of this practice for Hollywood studios. Also, The Last Airbender was a huge bomb at the box office. $300 million at the worldwide box office, a flop, knowing that the original cartoon was one of the most successful animation works of the decade. We have examples of whitewash films that perform really well on the box office though, such as Doctor Strange. However, it might be one of the only modern whitewash movie that was a hit at the box office. Actually, knowing that a movie is whitewash is a deterrent to some audiences. The assumption that a white actor will automatically appeal more to the audience is forgetting the fact that minorities are also part of this audience. According to the MPAA study, 1/3 of the people that bought a cinema ticket in 2014 were minorities. In addition to this statistic, the study shows that the majority of the movie attendants are between 18 and 39 years old, which is a part of the population that is more sensitive to this question of racial equality. Given those data, it is particularly odd that Hollywood still continues to whitewash roles. In addition, the last couple of successes at the box office tend to show that movies which display a multiracial and multicultural casting perform better. Star Wars The Force Awakens is among the biggest successes of the last decade, becoming the third highest grossing movie of all time. And with a principal trio composed of a woman, a Latino man, and a black man, according to Hollywood logic, the movie would not perform well, and yet it did. Other example, the Fast and Furious franchise, which is thriving right now. The 8th installment is releasing in April of next year, and it is already one of the most anticipated movies of 2017. Each installment is a hit, making buzz on social media and making at least $500 million at the box office. So, as a conclusion, the whitewashing practices are really driven by a supremacist thought that think that white actors are more bankable than minority actors. They are basically trying to strengthen the racial place by completely silencing the minority voices in cinema. As cinema is an incredible weapon of representation, it is also an incredible weapon to silence these minorities. But slowly, Hollywood is learning its lesson. And the big blockbuster franchises of the next years will feature mostly multiracial casting.
We have hope. Rebellions are built on hope.